Picture this. You're 12 years old, you've just moved to a brand new country, you don't fully speak the language yet, and your teacher calls you to the front of the class to give your very first presentation. 40 pairs of eyes lock onto you. Your voice cracks, and then the laughter starts. You rush through your words, the presentation falls apart, and you run home 3 blocks just to escape the shame. That night, you make yourself sick just so you don't have to go back to school the next day. That actually happened to a real person. His name is Mike Acker. Now fast forward almost 20 years. A tragedy strikes his community, a shooting at the local mall. 3,000 people gather for a candlelight vigil. And the same boy who once ran home in shame walks onto that stage and speaks to all 3,000 of them. Calm, clear, in control. What changed? That's exactly what Mike Acker breaks down in his book, Speak with No Fear, 7 practical strategies that turn a terrified kid into a professional speaker who's addressed crowds from 10 people to 10,000. Let's dive into every single one. Before strategy number 1, Acker insists on one non-negotiable foundation: belief. Doubt is the enemy. Doubt tells you, I'm just not a good speaker, or I've tried before and it didn't work. And doubt feeds fear. So before anything else, Acker asks you to suspend that disbelief, even just for the length of this video, and adopt one simple mantra: where you are is not where you have to be. He shares the story of his college professor, Gary, who saw something in him that he couldn't see in himself and pushed him onto the debate team despite his protests. That belief from someone else became the seed of his own belief in himself. The takeaway? You don't have to feel ready. You just have to believe that change is possible. Everything else builds from there. Strategy number 1 is to uncover and clean the wound. Acker uses a powerful analogy from childhood. As a kid, he was constantly getting cuts and scrapes from playing outside. And every time, his mom would catch him hiding an infected wound under his clothes. She'd drag him to the bathroom, scrub out the dirt, and disinfect it, painful but necessary. Because here's the thing, you can cover an infected wound with bandages, nice clothes, even makeup, but the infection is still there. The only way to heal is to expose it and clean it out. The same is true for your fear of public speaking. Almost everyone has a speaking wound, a specific moment in the past where you were embarrassed, mocked, or humiliated while speaking in front of others. Maybe you stumbled through a school presentation and the whole class laughed. Maybe a sales pitch went horribly wrong. Maybe a parent or teacher put you on the spot and you froze. Acker shares the story of William, one of his coaching clients, who had a traumatic elementary school presentation that left him in tears as classmates laughed. That single moment had quietly shaped his anxiety for years without him even realizing it. Once he uncovered that memory and examined it honestly, the grip it had on him started to loosen. So how do you actually do this? Acker gives 3 concrete actions. First, journal about your painful experience. Write out exactly what happened and how it felt. Second, if the wound is deep, talk to a counselor or a trusted group. And third, turn your story into a speech itself, structured with an introduction, 3 key moments, and a conclusion about how you've moved forward. The goal isn't to dwell in pain. It's to find the lesson hidden inside it and turn an open wound into a scar you can talk about without flinching. Strategy number 2 sounds completely backwards at first. Imagine the worst. Most advice tells you to visualize success. Acker says, do that too, but first, deliberately imagine everything going wrong. Why? Because of 2 powerful outcomes. First outcome, you learn to control your emotions. Acker compares this to athletic training. His soccer coach made practices harder than actual games, running more, taking more shots, facing tougher drills, so that when game day arrived, the real thing felt easier by comparison. The same principle applies to speaking. If you mentally rehearse the nerves, the sweaty palms, the racing heart before you're actually on stage, then when those feelings show up for real, you'll already know how to handle them. Breathe deeply, smile, and notice 5 small details around you to ground yourself. He shares a deeply personal example, speaking at his cousin's memorial service in front of a governor and military officers, just weeks after losing a family member. He deliberately imagined the moment beforehand, let himself feel the emotion in advance, and practiced calming techniques. When the real moment came, he was ready. The second outcome is gaining perspective, realizing the worst-case scenario is rarely as bad as you think. Acker tells the story of his friend Todd, the student body president, who gave an entire speech to the faculty with his zipper down, his white shirt visible through the gap the whole time. Todd survived. He went on to become a successful, well-respected manager who still gives presentations regularly. The lesson is simple. Even the worst-case scenario, embarrassment, a forgotten line, an awkward moment, you will survive. You'll go home. You'll still have your job, your health, your relationships. The potential good of speaking up almost always outweighs the potential bad. So imagine the worst, prepare for it emotionally, and then go after the best. Strategy number 3, you. Be you. Acker points out that too many speakers try to become someone else the moment they step on stage. More serious, more formal, more professional. And in doing so, they lose the very thing that makes them relatable. He uses a brilliant analogy. Imagine your speech content is a 10-pound dumbbell. If you hold it close to your chest, it's manageable. But hold it at arm's length, and it becomes exhausting fast. Now imagine a second 10-pound dumbbell. Your personality, your personhood. If you try to imitate someone else's style instead of using your own natural way of speaking, you're holding that second dumbbell far away from your body too. Now you're exhausted, shaky, and it shows. Acker admits he fell into this trap himself. As a young pastor, he spent an entire year unconsciously copying different famous preachers. One week sounding like one speaker, the next week completely different. It wasn't until he watched a simple video with a message, "You be you," that something clicked. He stopped imitating and started being himself, and the weight of speaking immediately got lighter. He also dives into comedians as the perfect example. Robin Williams used rapid-fire physical energy. Tina Fey leaned into her own awkwardness. George Carlin stayed deadpan and still. None of them are better. They're just authentically themselves, and that's what makes them compelling. So what's the action plan? 3 things. First, discover yourself. Take personality assessments like StrengthsFinder, Myers-Briggs, or DISC to understand your natural tendencies. Second, watch yourself, record your practice speeches, and review them, even though it feels awkward. And third, listen to others. But here's the catch. Study at least 3 different speakers, not just one. Acker calls this clones, confusion, and confidence. Watch one speaker, and you'll become a clone of them. Watch 2, and you'll get confused trying to blend 2 styles. Watch 3 or more, and you'll start to find your own unique voice with confidence. Strategy number 4, speak to one, not to all. Here's a striking point Acker makes. Throughout history, crowds have rioted, mobbed, and turned dangerous. Crowds are genuinely scary. But here's the key insight. Unless you're addressing literal thousands as a head of state, you're never actually speaking to a crowd. You're speaking to individual people who happen to be sitting in the same room. Acker tells the story of preparing to speak to over 3,000 people at that candlelight vigil. Instead of hiding backstage rehearsing, he walked through the crowd beforehand and met individual people. A grandmother, a recently single guy, a young couple, a teenager, someone fresh out of jail. By the time he stepped on stage, he wasn't speaking to a faceless crowd anymore. He was speaking to Georgia, Chad, Tim, Sandy, Emily, and Isaac. The crowd had dematerialized into individuals he genuinely cared about. He also shares how he applies this when speaking to an audience he doesn't naturally connect with, like a room full of skeptical business executives. The trick is to find even just one person you know or can imagine in that group. Understand their hopes, fears, and pressures, and then speak to the whole room as if everyone is like that one person. Your perception of the audience directly affects how they perceive you back. For the action steps, Acker gives a practical pre-speech checklist. Arrive early so you're not rushed. Avoid coffee and sugar before speaking, since they amplify nervous energy instead of calming it. Stand 5 feet away from the wall instead of hiding near it, so you're physically positioned to meet people. Smile, which genuinely lowers blood pressure and boosts your mood through real neurochemistry. Breathe deeply to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And most importantly, make it your mission to genuinely connect with 3 to 5 people before you speak. Do all of this, and by the time you step up to talk, you won't be facing a crowd. You'll be talking to friends. Strategy number 5 completely flips your perspective. It's not about you. Acker opens this chapter with the classic pre-speech inner monologue we've all had. What will they think of me? Do I look okay? What if I mess up? Everyone's staring at me. He counts it out, and in that short paragraph, the words I and me appear 25 times. Here's the twist. While you're worrying about what your audience thinks of you, they're not thinking about you at all. They're worried about themselves. He references the classic scene from the movie What Women Want, where a character suddenly gains the ability to hear women's thoughts during a presentation and discovers everyone's mind is wandering to their own lives, completely unrelated to him. This isn't a bad thing. It's freeing. If people aren't scrutinizing your every move, the pressure evaporates. And here's the second part. The vast majority of people in your audience genuinely want you to succeed. Why? Because watching someone fail is uncomfortable for everyone in the room. Your success is, in a strange way, their success too. Acker shares a memorable story about leadership expert John Maxwell, who was the final speaker at an exhausted, overstimulated charity event. Instead of pushing through his full prepared talk, he read the room, walked up, said one sentence about leadership being the foundation of everything, and sat back down. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. It wasn't about delivering more content. It was about valuing the audience's actual state. So how do you put this into action? Shift your goal from how do I look to how can I help them? Before any speech, ask yourself, what does my audience need? What are their hopes, fears, and hidden worries? How can I add value to their day? The more you focus outward, the less room there is for fear to grow inward. Strategy number 6, channel the power. Here's something Acker openly admits. Even after years of professional speaking, he still gets nervous every single time. But that's actually good news, because the goal isn't to eliminate your nerves completely. It's to channel them. He illustrates this with a story about a stressful period in his career when he was hired to turn around a struggling nonprofit and was working 7 days a week. A friend who ran a martial arts gym started training him for free, and Acker discovered that the same negative stress energy that was overwhelming him could be redirected into something productive, like a hard workout. Then he gives us one of the most memorable analogies in the book, the dam. Picture a massive reservoir of water building up behind a dam. That's your nervous energy before speech. You don't want to eliminate that water completely, and you definitely don't want it to burst out all at once in an uncontrolled flood. Instead, dams release that energy through controlled channels called penstocks, generating useful power. Acker gives 3 penstocks for releasing your nervous energy productively during a speech. Penstock 1, use pauses. A purposeful pause isn't awkward, it's powerful. It lets the audience lean in, and it gives you a moment to breathe and regain control. Penstock 2, show purpose through movement. Don't pace nervously. Instead, plan deliberate movements, like moving to 3 distinct spots on stage for a 3-point talk. Penstock 3, light up with passion. The same raw energy that makes you nervous is the energy that makes a speaker captivating. Think of any iconic, passionate speech you've ever watched. Care about your topic, care about your audience, and let that care become visible energy. For action steps, prepare thoroughly so nervous energy gets channeled into readiness rather than panic. Exercise before high-stakes speaking events to physically burn off adrenaline. And practice deep breathing daily, not just on the day of your speech, so it becomes second nature when you need it most. And strategy number 7, be in the moment. Acker opens this final chapter with his own wedding day, a day where, despite a string of small disasters behind the scenes, like a broken playlist and last-minute drama, the moment his bride walked down the aisle, none of it mattered. Only that moment existed. He breaks down public speaking into 3 stages of learning. The first is preparation, and he warns against rushing through it just to get it over with. This stage is where you build real skills: vocabulary, pacing, content knowledge. The second stage is the presentation itself, and here's a powerful line from the book: what you lose in content, you gain in connection. In other words, if you're so locked into your notes that you can't read the room, you're missing the entire point. The third stage is reflection. Afterward, take just 5 minutes to run through what Acker calls the celebrate, cut, change method. Celebrate what worked, cut what didn't, and change what could be better next time. He also warns about something very modern: the comparison trap of social media. Comparing your speaking journey to someone else's polished highlight reel will only breed defeat. Acker's blunt advice: if you compare and compete, you will live in defeat. For the post-speech action plan, Acker gives a simple but powerful mindset. Whatever happened, happened. Don't obsess over it, good or bad. Immediately after, just smile, you did it. The day after, reflect honestly and pick just 3 things to improve, not 30. And going forward, carry the lesson, not the anxiety. He closes this section by pointing to King Solomon, widely regarded throughout history as one of the wisest people to ever live, who after a lifetime of wealth, achievement, and experience concluded that the greatest thing in life is simply to enjoy the moment you're in. Right now, that includes the moment you're about to speak. So how do you actually put all 7 of these strategies into practice? Acker gives us a simple framework: 1-2-3 R. Step 1, believe. Before anything else, believe that change is genuinely possible for you. Step 2, schedule it. Literally open your calendar right now and block out 1 hour this week to work on just one strategy. Acker is adamant about this. Without scheduling it, it won't happen. Step 3, choose one strategy. Out of the 7, uncover the wound. Imagine the worst. You be you, speak to one. It's not about you. Channel the power and be in the moment. Pick the one that resonated with you most. Then work through it using what Acker calls the ABCs. Change your perspective, invest in preparation, and commit to practice. And R, repeat. Go back through the strategies, one at a time, until fear no longer runs the show. Here's the truth Acker wants you to walk away with. Public speaking will probably always make you a little nervous, and that's okay. The goal was never to eliminate that feeling completely. It's to ease it, channel it, and let it become the very thing that makes you a compelling, engaging, memorable speaker. That's the complete breakdown of Speak with No Fear by Mike Acker. If you found this useful, hit subscribe for more book breakdowns just like this one, and let me know in the comments. Which of the 7 strategies do you most need to work on? See you in the next video.